Welcome to the Lady Up America podcast. I'm Diane Canada, your host. I'm so glad you're here today. Thanks for tuning in. Ladies, today we're going to be talking about the Republican Party. I'm going to make a case for them. Why we got to love them, warts and all. Stay with me. I think you might be interested to hear this. Be right back.
Lady up around this town. Lady up around this town. Victory on the battleground. We claim it now. Lady up, lady up. Lady up, lady up.
All right, ladies, welcome back. Okay, so what I'm hearing from a lot of you ladies who follow me is that you had to hold your nose to vote Republican this election. I know a lot of independents and even Democrats turned out to vote for Trump. He is a once in a generation president. And we are not going to we are not going to have another Trump in our lifetime. These come around about once every 100 years or so. And he was just an anomaly. Like, he is just kind of a force of nature that I think brought a lot of people together. But I think, yes, he brought them together, but also his policies more than anything are what brought us together. And also, we're so encouraged, right? I mean, like, I look at how they're draining this swamp, the Doge. I mean, I am here for this. I am here for what's going on. I love seeing them drain that swamp. I love seeing them turning over all the rocks. It's like all the roaches. It's like somebody just came in and flipped the light on and all the roaches are scurrying around now, right? They're finding all their hiding places and they don't like it. And they're on microphones and they're, just doing everything they can to deflect or to, it cracks me up to see Maxine Waters and some of these people just getting on the microphone. The hypocrisy it's just dripping from them. But I know a lot of people, though, still, just because you ran from this crazy progressive agenda, this progressive Democrat Party, does not mean necessarily that people are running to the Republican Party. We still have a lot of house cleaning to do, housekeeping to do in our party. And we can't sit back and think that 2 years from now at the midterm or 4 years from now at the next presidential cycle, that this momentum is enough to carry us. And so that's why I want to make a case for the Republican Party today. Even if you don't see yourself as a Republican, even if you just would rather cut off your right arm than vote Republican if it wasn't for Trump, I'm talking to you today. And if you know somebody that feels this way and you already do consider yourself Republican, then I'm talking to you too, because hopefully the things I'm going to bring up today will give you inspiration, some tools to share with the people in your life who do feel that way too. Okay, let's not kid ourselves that just because they're finding a lot of really deep-seated corruption in the left because of these woke agendas and all that, they're turning over rocks, they're finding all this DEI pumped out to the world and transgender operas. I mean, all this stuff. Yes, it looks real bad for the Democrats right now. But let's not think for a second that they're not going to turn over a rock somewhere and we're not going to find some Republican corruption in there too. We will. All right, but here's the deal. We have to understand that even though in our party we've got bad eggs, we've got bad eggs, we've got corruption in our party. It's not the whole. The whole of the Republican Party, I believe, is very aligned with biblical values. Not so much the person, because we have a sin nature as human beings. It is our nature. If you're not really intentionally following God and following that relationship with Jesus Christ, really getting to know Jesus, if you're not on a mission to know him, the world will lure you away. The enemy has perfected his craft for centuries. He is the liar. He is the deceiver. He knows how to put just enough truth mixed with just enough doubt in your mind to lure you away. So if you're not intentionally in relationship with Jesus, you're going to get pulled away. So I'm saying there are a lot of Republicans that have, but there are also a lot of them who haven't. Not everybody in our state government, not everybody in our federal government is corrupt. They're not. But what we have to look at is it's not so much the person. I mean, we do have to look at the person when we're electing people. But what I mean is right now, I'm just talking about the Republican Party as a whole. We need to not look at the few bad eggs that we have in there. We need to look at the policies. We need to look at what does the Republican Party stand for, and then how do we elect better Republicans? That's really the question. How can you tell when somebody's a bad egg? And how do you try to prevent them from getting in? Then if they do get in, what do you do about it? So first thing we need to understand about the Republican Party is that they were the party that abolished slavery. They are also the party that was against things like the KKK. They were for civil rights. It's the Democrats that were fighting against all that stuff. The Democrat Party was the one who wanted to continue slavery. The Democrat Party is the party of the KKK. Democrat Party is the party of the civil unrest, the fighting the civil rights movement. That's the Democrats. That's not Republicans. I remember when I was running for office, I was shocked to learn some of this stuff. Also, the Democrat Party is the one behind abortion. They are, look up the founder of Planned Parenthood is Margaret Sanger, I believe is her name. And she, I mean, I'm telling you, you look at that seedy agenda that they had. They believed in something called eugenics, which they believed that black people, that pretty much any minority, but certainly the black community, they wanted to keep them contained. They wanted to keep them manageable as far as their population, their numbers. She was all about kind of keeping, Candace Owens says it perfectly. She's keeping the black people on the modern plantation. So why do you think, like, just think about it for a minute. Why do you think that most Planned Parenthood facilities are in the heart of urban neighborhoods? So the Republican Party is not the enemy. Okay, again, we've had some bad eggs, we've had some bad actors out there, but I'm advocating for the policies of the Republican Party. And I talk about these a lot in my Lady Up America book, which I always encourage you guys to get a copy of. You can also go online and do the virtual book club. But I talk about these a lot, and I'm going to just share them with you in just a second. This is basically the heartbeat of the Republican Party. But when I was searching and researching about the party, I happened to stumble upon these values. The reason I did is because I was listening one day to Marsha Blackburn giving an interview, Senator Marsha Blackburn, and I heard her say, well, as Republicans, we believe in the rule of law. And I was still learning about the Republican Party. So my ears kind of perked up, and I'm like, rule of law, where did she get that? Because I know it's not in our Constitution and all these. I'm like, where did she get that? And then I heard another friend of mine, she made a comment, and when she was considering voting for me, she says, well, Diane, you'll have my vote if you can tell me one thing. Are you a fiscal conservative? And again, I just didn't know the term. I'm like, what does she mean by that? And I feel embarrassed now that I didn't know, but I was learning. So I went digging for those two terms, rule of law and fiscal responsibility. I found them on, at the time, Representative Mike Johnson's website from Louisiana, who is now our Speaker of the House. But I've been building Lady Up for the last several years, so this was before he became Speaker. And he had what he calls the 7 conservative values. And these values are limited government, individual freedom, human dignity, fiscal responsibility, rule of law, free markets, and peace through strength. Okay, so there's the 7. Now, when I started digging into these, this is what really made me fall in love with the Republican Party. When we look back over history, we can see proof, evidence that this is what our party is rooted in, these conservative values. And I just want to kind of break them down for you today because I don't think a lot of us are aware of them. Limited government means the bigger the government, the smaller our individual liberties. A legitimate government operates only by the consent of the governed and is more efficient and less corrupt when it is limited in its size and scope. Our Constitution provides important safeguards against government encroachment, a vital separation of powers, and a necessary system of checks and balances. Okay, so limited government. So this is what's going on right now with DOGE, right? This is why everybody's just in an uproar over this, because government is so bloated. Like, it is so big. When we started, after the civil rights movement, what I learned in my research was that this is when a lot of these, what I call ABC agencies, the agency of this, the bureaucracy of that, when a lot of them started really getting their power because lawmakers started handing that power over to them. I think it maybe started out somewhat innocent because a lot of the bureaucracies were telling the lawmakers things like, well, guys, things are just getting more complex now. It's harder as technology is evolving and our society is evolving. We need a bureaucracy here and a bureaucracy there just to kind of keep up, have people that are dedicated to becoming experts in that field and researching in that field and all that. So lawmakers started kind of handing over slowly a lot of their power to these people. Well, now, as we see with Doge, I mean, they are like, we are finding so much abuse and fraud and just waste. And I mean, big, big, big. It's like government is like after a turkey dinner, they are just like bloated. And again, the bigger and bigger that they get, the less and less free we are. Things like the IRS should not even be a thing. Like that's not even legal. I mean, we see all this USAID that's been in the news a lot lately, and all these little kind of pet projects that these progressives have been funding. A lot of that likely was under, these names that probably aren't even going to what they say they're going to. Probably a lot of kickbacks, a lot of money getting pocketed. So we know there's just so much waste. And then we look at our deficit, right? We look at our overblown deficit, and we think it's just like getting higher and higher and higher and higher. So we're seeing Elon Musk and these people coming in and they're going, okay, they're flipping over every rock and they're going, where is this money? Where has it been going? And who's been benefiting from it? And they're shrinking government. They're laying people off left and right. They're like, I love when they show up and they just close the doors and won't let them in. All of a sudden their key fobs don't work and their passwords have been shut down. I mean, they are really, really on a mission to reduce the size of government and get us back to a maintainable, to a reasonable size in government, and take that power away from these bureaucrats and return it to the people. And that's what's going on. I think a lot of this stuff we see in the streets, all this, these Maxine Waters and a lot of these people that are out in the streets, Chuck Schumer, what they're doing, I think what they're doing is they're massively deflecting, number one. I mean, the hypocrisy is just dripping. It's palpable. But I think what's also going on is they're doing everything they can to kind of throw up smoke screens because they know that we've probably just hit the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to find. So all of this horrible stuff that we have found, I think it's just like, I think what we're going to find is going to blow our mind. And I think they're trying to stop that. So that's what limited government basically means. Let's go to the next one, individual freedom. So in America, we proclaim the self-evident truths that all of us are created equal and granted by God the same inherent freedoms, such as the natural and unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the ability to pursue happiness, to own our own property, to build wealth, and defend ourselves and our families. The purpose of government is to secure these rights, not grant them. Big difference. So this is huge, you guys. In America, we believe God gave us our rights. Government's job is not to grant rights or to take them away. There are inalienable rights that we have from our Creator. Their job is to protect them. So we also look at things like in this particular party, when we look at individual freedom, we're looking at things like property taxes. Like that's a really big deal right now that Trump's kicking around, the idea of abolishing property taxes. Like we have a right to, if we've paid our home off, we have a right to own that property and to own that land. And right now, the way that our government is set up is you have perpetual property taxes, annual property taxes. And if you fall behind on those, they can come take your house. And that's not okay. So anyway, things like that fall under individual freedom. The next one under the Republican Party is human dignity. Now, this one is huge. And so this one's going to apply to things like abortion. It's going to apply to this men and women's sports, all this kind of stuff. Because all men are created equal and in the image of God, every human life has dignity and value, and every person should be measured only by the content of their character. A just government protects life, honors marriage and family as the primary institutions of a healthy society, and embraces the vital cultural differences of religion and morality. Public policies should always encourage education and emphasize the virtue of hard work as a pathway out of poverty, while public assistance programs should be reserved only for those who are truly in need. I mean, I don't even probably need to expand on that. It's pretty obvious. I mean, that value right there solves a multitude of problems in our country. It's the answer. There are two genders, male and female. the Bible sets those standards. The Bible is the umpire for, who can marry. The Bible sets the standard for the value of human life and to protect that life. We look at abortion, that child, that defenseless child has rights. The geography of that child does not change the fact that that child has rights. So anyway, that's human dignity. So the fourth one then for the Republican Party is fiscal responsibility. And I mentioned this one earlier, but Congress has a moral and constitutional duty to be good stewards of our money, to resolve the current debt crisis, bring spending under control, balance the federal budget, reform and modernize entitlement programs, eliminate fraud and waste and abuse, pursue continued pro-growth tax reforms and permanent tax reductions, and restore regular order and accountability in the budget and appropriations process. I mean, that's fiscal responsibility. This is what I just was talking about earlier. That's what our party stands for, is making sure that we're living within our means and not allowing government to become this just out of control runaway train on the spending. Rule of law, this is another a really important one. Ours is a government of laws and not of men. And the rule of law is our foundation. To maintain ordered liberty in civilized society, public and private virtues should be encouraged, and justice must be administered equally and impartially to all. Each branch of government must adhere to the Constitution, and Congress must provide oversight. The weaponization of our government over the last couple of years, as Trump has been running, has just been off the charts. You cannot have we cannot have one person who is not even has not even been president before, who's been vice president, have classified documents that he's not even allowed to have open in garages and other areas of his property. We cannot have that standard and then have an actual sitting president who does have a right to have those things raided by the FBI as if he's some criminal when he was already in compliance with the FBI, and anybody who wanted access to that paperwork, he was already in the process of returning some of it or being open to returning some of it. So that just that alone, I mean, we could go down the list. But manufacturing cases against him, there's nothing impartial about what happened to Trump. And I went on a lot of very hostile news media when all that was going on, and taking that stand for Trump. And I'll tell you, it was not easy to do because they were just bought into the narrative, bought into the lie. And America saw it. That's what I love, is that America saw it. America's like, there is something really, really off about this. So thank God. But I think we all understand rule of law, and our Department of Justice now with, Pam Bondi, I think with her now at the helm, we're going to be able to rein that back in and get that department cleared out of all that corruption, all that weaponization, and actually return to some normalcy. We need to put some faith back in our organizations. But this is they're trying, guys. This is the Republican value that they are doing everything they can to reinstate. All right, we got two more here. So free markets is the next one. The free enterprise system rewards hard work and self-sacrifice, and it's the basis and the genius of the American economy. The government often stands as the greatest obstacle to the progress and prosperity of free people. Free markets and free trade agreements allow for innovation, improvement, economic expansion, as risk takers are given the liberty to pursue the American dream and create more jobs and upward mobility for more people. I mean, guys, free markets, the reason we have choices when we walk in a store is because of free markets. In socialized countries, it's like you get a government, it's not even a selection. You get a government ration. Go back and watch if you can. I did a great podcast with a woman named Danielle about a year or so ago, and she grew up in Marxist Romania. And she explained to us what grocery stores are like under socialism, Marxism, when the government basically is in charge of rationing out groceries, gas, all these kinds of things to their people. If you don't have free markets, believe me when I tell you, it is scary what ends up happening. So free markets, we're all about that. And what Trump's doing right now, again in the office, he's bringing all that back. He's saying, first of all, we've noticed he's noticed and he's making us aware how much we've been ripped off by all these other countries, just taking advantage of the United States. So he's stopping that. And then he's using these tariffs, which a lot of people I know they have kind of thumb their nose up at that, but they're very effective. If you look at his use of them, basically he's saying, come build here in the United States. We'll give you so many incentives to come build here. We'll create jobs, give Americans that choice then of so many more choices here in our own country of free markets. But if you want to import, if you want us to import your things here, if you want to export out of your country and you want us to be importing stuff, then there's going to be a price to pay for that. We want to deter that. We want to not incentivize that any longer. We need to bring a lot of our not only our manufacturing, but so many of our things like our pharmacy drugs that we've been farming out to China. What in the world? I don't know about you, but I'm not real comfortable with that. I mean, farming as a whole, just look at agriculture, things like that. We need to be taking care of our own country and doing everything that we can to make it profitable for America to do business here at home. And that's what Trump's doing. He's saying, let's bring it back home. Not that we won't do any trade, and we do want to have free market trade with other countries and stuff, but it's got to be fair, and it's got to not be us always just, taking the beating on it financially. It's just enough. So again, he's in there and he's fighting for that. It's the policies, you guys. And last one is peace through strength, and this one is huge. The first obligation of the federal government is to provide for the common defense of the U.S. by protecting our homeland and our strategic interests abroad. Because America serves as moral leadership in an increasingly dangerous world and weakness invites aggression, we must remain the strongest military power on earth, fully prepared and capable of defending and defeating any adversaries, tyrants, or terrorists under any circumstances at any time. I mean, I don't even probably have to go into this one too deep. We see what peace through strength is doing. In the last administration, it was don't, right? That was their big famous word, don't. Well, we see everybody blew right past that. They did. Now Trump comes in and he's like, don't or else. And he lays out the consequences of what will happen. The only thing that evil understands is a force greater than itself. That's the only thing it understands. You can't negotiate with evil. You can't play footsies with evil. You can't empower evil. Our government, up until this point, and we're finding this in Doge, has actually been funding the very terrorists, the very countries that are showing so much aggression now and that have caused so much havoc and pain and misery and suffering for so many people. Our government funding that. So Trump's done with it. He's coming in. He's like, oh, that's not happening anymore. Not on my watch. And Tom Homan and securing our border. I mean, so many things here. Peace through strength is our policy. So I hope by showing you these 7 that you can understand what we stand for as a party. Do we have bad actors? Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something else. I know that it's hard enough fighting the Democrats, right? Hard enough fighting this progressive, dangerous, horrible agenda that they keep pumping out. And they're doubling down on it too. They're not even slowing down. They've learned nothing, right? They're just doubling down on it. Not only do we have to fight that evil back, but even within our own Republican Party, we have to fight. There's so much infighting with each other. And I've done a lot of thinking about this. My husband is he's just a history scholar and very brilliant political mind. And we talk about it a lot. And the conclusions that we've come to is that in the Democrat Party, they do everything in lockstep. Like everything is just a force coming forward. They will protect each other. Look at what they did for Biden up until they just couldn't anymore. They will just cover up, protect everything because everybody's in on it together, right? So they're locked arms and they're by God, they're dug in for each other. The Republican Party, however, I mean, they will throw each other under the bus so fast to make your head spin. I think it's because in the Democrat Party, when evil is and these policies that they have are not aligned with the Bible. And when you're not aligned with the Bible, you're on the side of evil. You just are. They're just evil policies. I'm not saying that every Democrat is evil. I think a lot of Democrats are Democrats because they don't know better. They don't understand all of these things I just went through with you. But the progressive Democrat elites, they're very well aware of what they're doing, and their policies are absolutely evil. And I think when evil is driving that party, you don't have a conscience, right? You don't have the ability to critically think. There's no you're after what you want. There's no submission to God. There's no submission to, to doing things the right and the moral way. There's just a I want what I want, you want what you want, and by God, let's team up and go after that common enemy. And that's all they know. Whereas in the Republican Party, we have a lot of chiefs, very few Indians. Everybody's a silo. Everybody's got their own thing going. Everybody, I mean, we have a lot of entrepreneurs in the Republican Party. We have a lot of people who very much uh, think that they are right on issues, and they don't like collaboration so much. They are much more individual thinkers. The very thing that makes us a great party, all these things we talk about, are also our biggest downfall in the Republican Party. The things that hurt us, the things that so we have to unite as a party. And I know not everybody will. You still got people that have their own agenda. You've got a lot of legalism, even those who are Christians, who profess to be Christians. There's a big difference, again, between having religion versus having relationship with Jesus. When you have relationship, then you understand God's always with us. He's always watching. He wants the best for us. And when we fall deeper and deeper in love with him, then we fall deeper and deeper in love with people, and we want what God wants for people. That's how it's supposed to work. But you got a lot of people who don't get that. They go to church every Sunday and they sit in a pew, but it doesn't make them a Christian. It doesn't make them, maybe they're a baby Christian, maybe they've said a prayer and they're going to get into heaven, but they're certainly not walking it out in their life. There's no fruit. God said you will know them by their fruit. And so all we see in a lot of, Republicans is just rotten fruit. But there are a lot of good ones out there. There are a lot of them out there that are in it for the right reasons, that are in it to hold up these policies. And so it's our only shot. Independents very, very, very rarely get elected. Libertarians, you can make a case for libertarians, but even with them, they don't necessarily subscribe to a biblical worldview. They just want you to leave them alone. So again, this is why I'm Republican too, which is why I fight for the Republican Party, because we do have that virtue. We have that God, that fear of God behind us at the root of all of our policies. And that's why I think that the Republican Party is the only party that we need to vote for at the polls. Now, how do we get better Republicans? We have to look at the fruit in their lives. We need to look for these, ask them about, now that you know these 7 values, which is really the heartbeat, the soul of our country, ask them about these things. Look, when you see a breaking news cycle come, look at how these politicians react to it. Ask them questions about it. Ask them what they would do. Now you have a reference point for that. All right, it's not just how you feel about them. It's not just maybe what they did wrong. And again, don't look for perfection. This is something else that I see so many Republicans do, is they look for perfection. Like if they don't follow things to the T, like to the letter, then they'll throw them under the bus. And that unity, we're not going to ever be able to unite with evil. I talked about that in one of my previous shows recently. We can't unite with evil. We're not going to unite with progressive Democrats. But as a party, for those of us who are following the biblical worldview in these policies, we have to be united. And all this infighting and stuff, all it does is it just repels people. It just repels people on the outside looking in, when they see Republicans doing this stuff. And it is, I mean, it's so unbecoming. It really is. And everybody, trying to vie for their own relevance, vie for their own positions, their own little back alley deals, their own, maneuvering on the chessboard so that their, son or their uncle or whatever is going to get moved into a better position. I mean, I just see this stuff, and it's not unique to the political realm. I mean, I saw it all the time in the music business. I've seen it. It's in every industry. So it's just human nature is why I say you got bad apples out there, people that are just selfish, people that are just prideful. It's just human nature. But you don't throw the whole, you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't throw away the whole Republican Party because of these bad actors. We just need to win them. First of all, win them to relationship with Jesus so that they want to do the right thing. Stop being so selfish, lay that pride down, all that stuff. But we also just need to really elect better Republicans. And we need to have a reference point for how to do that, which is what these 7 founding values are. I call them the 7 load-bearing walls of our country. So when people say things like, oh, Diane, these things are so antiquated. The Constitution's antiquated, whatever. I always come back to these seven and I say, no, it's not that we are trying to go back to something old. These are like the seven load bearing walls of our country, and we are trying to reinforce them. We're trying to take the hammer out of the hands of people trying to knock them down. So that's the difference. You have to reframe it for the modern era. I talk about this a lot in my program, which, by the way, we're going to be digging deep into the next big, I'm calling it training party. So go to ladyupamerica.com and get all the details. But this is going to be an opportunity for us to really come together and solidify our position on these types of values, on why we're Republican, on why we need to win people to the Republican Party. You can tune in. It's going to be a live virtual event, not like traditional Zoom. This is going to be like Zoom on steroids. It's going to be so interactive. It's going to be so fun. Zoom events is a whole other experience than just traditional Zoom. But you can either tune in from your own computer and just watch from your own living room, or you can gather up with a couple of friends, which is what I recommend. Gather up, 5 to 10 girlfriends. Y'all pick somebody's living room to join up. Everybody come and bring a little bagged lunch. We've got some little canvas tote bags in the Lady Up America store you can grab. Everybody just bring your own lunch. Maybe bring a hot tea bag so that you can, have some hot tea while you're there. The host, all she has to do is provide the space and some hot water. You guys can sip hot tea with me. We can do this live training, a couple of hours of deep teaching. We'll be able to break for lunch. You guys mingle, maybe visit with some of the other ladies around the country. And then we come back for one more teaching session for the afternoon. And there's also going to be some neat things like an online, like a virtual shopping expo. Be kind of neat. We're going to have some vendors and people there that you can buy some things at discounts that are going to be really fun to get. But there's just I'm still on the planning stages of it now, but I want to tell you about it. So you can go to ladyupamerica.com and sign up, get your ticket, start planning now. And we're going to go take a deep dive into how to really become magnets for Jesus, how to really become magnets for the Republican Party, attract people, because we cannot take for granted these next 2 to 4 years. We need to be doing everything we can now to make sure that when Trump is no longer on the ticket, that we can come back behind and ensure that Republicans get reelected and really be firm on our stance on why we believe that. All right. So join me there. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Lady up, and I will see you next time.
Lady up around this town. Lady up around this town. Victory on the back.